Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Business from the Bass Boat podcast on the Serious Angler Network, presented by Rec Lending. And guys, we've got a show that I have been chasing down for quite some time. As you've kind of known on Business from the Bass Boat, we certainly enjoy talking bass boats, of course, everything bass fishing, but I certainly have such a connection with bass boats and the brands themselves, the founders behind some of these brands. And that's been a common theme of the show. And today's show is with Falcon Bass Boats. Basically, one of the founders, one of the owners of Falcon Bass Boats, Mr. Tim DePriest, is on, in addition to Chris Williams, who we've had in the past when he was a rep for Blazer Boats and now is a rep for Falcon Boats. So super interested to get in today's show. I love seeing some of these younger aged brands, meaning, you know, not the 70-year history, some of these details with older brands in the industry. I love seeing competition. I think it makes everything better in general. So without further ado, let's bring the guys in. Chris and Tim, how are we, guys?
Hey, doing great, Adam. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Good, good. Tim, I see the Falcon logo in the background, the Go Fish.
the big Go Fish. That's right.
You're at the plant, right? Is that correct? There in South Carolina?
Correct. Yeah. I'm in what we call the yellow room. So this is kind of the little bit of everything room goes on in here. So
very good. Very good. Well, man, I can't imagine. We're having a heat wave coming across the West right now. We've got forests on fire everywhere. It's pretty bad, but I probably, same with you, Chris. You're in Arkansas, I believe. I can't imagine what you guys are dealing with.
Well, I went and ran some props this morning. I was going to test 4 or 5, and I tested 3 and said the heck with it. And it was already like 104-degree heat index after I tested 3 props, and I was sopping wet. And they just don't run in that kind of heat. I mean, so you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot there. So I loaded up and come back to the house.
Yeah, the ponies don't want to come out of the barn in that kind of heat, for sure.
No, sir.
Man, we're going to have to clip that. The ponies don't want to come out of the barn in that kind of heat. I love that.
That's right.
I'm going to start.
That's right.
I'm going to start saying that just for myself when it's hot out. Just like, no, ponies don't want to come out of the barn. Oh, well, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you both so very much. I know, Tim, you've got a roll here fairly soon to get back to closing down production for the day. So I figure we'll start with yourself, and then towards the end of the show, Chris, sure, we will break down models. But man, Falcon Boats. First of all, let's start with having an absolute run with Justin Hamner and these guys in these boats right now, kicking butt.
Yeah, I mean,
how does that feel?
It's been good.
A new brand, newish brand.
Yeah, it's good. You know, we've had some success actually coming out of the gate. You know, the first year we kind of started putting guys in boats. We had Tim Frederick landed an FLW event. Brian Latimer wins an event. You know, and it's just been Brandon Cobb, you know, has had a great run. Then Patrick and Justin. So we've got to enjoy, you know, watching, you know, guys that represent us, you know, fall inside the winner circle several times, being the young company we are. You know, this year, the Classic win. Patrick's got an Elite Series win. This weekend, Patrick landed a NPFL win.
NPFL.
Yeah. And Kyle Austin, a young gun that we really like, wins an Open on Santee. We had a top 5 finish from a young kid on St. Clair this weekend, which I actually was up there for that Open tournament.
Oh, cool.
Just happened to be in the neighborhood, so I got to drop in. So, man, it is fun watching these guys fish, and especially watching the success that some of our anglers have had. Anthony Gagliardi on the BP Tour side, you know, it's just been fantastic.
Awesome. It's been super cool to watch. I feel like you guys have chose the right guys. You know what I mean? As this brand has been built, and man, let's talk about the start. So give us a background on yourself, and then from what I have read and understood, I believe I met Steven one time it was either at a classic or at an ICAST, and we had a good conversation. But I believe there's three of you that are partners on this. But how did it all start? And give us the rundown, man. South Carolina boats made right there. Love to hear about it.
Yeah, man, it's kind of crazy. I can go all the way back with Steve. Steven, we tell people Steven's been in a bass boat plant since he was in the womb. Uh, his dad was the founder of Bumblebee. Uh, Started back in the early 1970s, and so Steve's been inside a boat plant since way back when. Um, I actually started working at a boat dealership back when I was in actually junior high, going into high school in Nashville. That was owned by a guy named Joe Reeves, who was original owner of Hydrosports.
Mm.
And at that time, Earl Bentz was the GM of Hydrosports. So the lineage goes way back. But after a small stint, out of school, small stint in the Navy, served in the Navy for a few years and got out of the Navy and kind of looking for what to do. And Earl had started Stratus, and this was 87, 88. I may be off on my dates here a little bit, but
Sure.
we're dipping back 30 years now. But um, I had a family member that worked at Stratus and was able to get on board there, and ended up spending 13 or 14 years with Stratus Outboard Marine Corporation brands. Uh, Worked my way up to becoming plant manager at Stratus like by 97.
Hmm.
Just prior to that's when Steve and I met. His family sold Bumblebee,
Okay.
and after the Bumblebee sale, Stephen was in the marketplace, and so we ended up at Stratus together. Stephen was a customer service manager, and I was running the warranty shop. And as time went on, I became plant manager, and Stephen became production engineer. Uh, so that lasted until 99,
Okay.
early 2000s. And I actually got sent to South Carolina to run the Hydrosport facility that was here at that time, uh, to be operations manager for Hydrosports. Uh, I think Stephen left Stratus. He ended up working for Ashland, some FRP companies, selling fiberglass resin, that kind of stuff, and calling on boat companies. And in the early 2000s, I ended up getting on board with the Hancock brothers um, at CPRO.
Okay.
And that business grew just exponentially. I mean, it was it was it was best group of guys I worked for. Just had a blast there. We ended up Stephen ended up getting hired there, so now we're back together in South Carolina. And
And C Pro, they make center console boats.
center console, yeah. And at that time, they were center console builder, one of the largest family-owned center console builders in the country at that time.
Mm.
Um, and so Steve and I, we ended up there together. We were together for a few years, and they got bought by Brunswick, I think in 2005.
Okay.
And we I decided to kind of go a different route. And it's kind of a funny story. So I ended up turning in my resignation. Steve stayed on board. Steve and I were both. He was running one of the companies, C Boss. I was running C Pro. We were both operations managers. Well, Steve ended up running C Pro, and I kind of stayed around just for the transition period. So I'd come in the morning, I'd be like, "Hey, boss, what do you need me to do today?" It's kind of a thing we still joke about today.
Yeah.
And but as time went on, Stephen ends up leaving too, and we're both just kind of. I was doing some consulting. Steve went back into the FRP business with selling glass and resin, and in 2006, he and I got back together. We were both living here,
Mhm.
and we started a company in '06 called Marine Pro.
Okay.
We still own it today. it's a fiberglass repair shop. We kind of specialize in insurance repair,
Mm.
but we do a little bit of everything over there. We have a great group of guys. Um, we have established a really good reputation as far as the repair business goes, which we're very proud of,
Good.
and got a great group of guys over there. And uh, so from 2006 to like 2013 or 2014, that was just kind of what we were doing. And then the itch hit us again. Man, I sure do miss building bass boats. We worked on all these brands. We worked on everybody's stuff, Ranger, Skeeter, Triton, just so we got an opportunity for a lot of years to see what everybody was doing because we worked on everybody's stuff. And we just made a lot of notes over the years. Hey, man, that's a really good idea. Ooh, that
Yeah.
work. You learn a lot. You learn a lot working on boats. Like, ooh, that's not a good idea. So we just take a lot of notes from a lot of other brands, and finally we sat down with. Finally, we just decided, man, we're filling this pool to go do this, and we got with Jimmy Metz, who we worked with at Sea Pro,
Mm-hmm.
who had launched Tidewater Boats, which is a big center console, well known builder here in Lexington, South Carolina, just a few miles from here.
Okay.
So we ended up partnering with Jimmy, uh, and it's like, hey, this is what we want to do. So we just kind of, he was in the business and, already had an established brand and knew some of the ropes to kind of guide Steve and I through. And like, hey, we know how to build them. We just, we just need the little guidance side on the floor planning side and the banking side so all of that. So Jimmy's been a huge help with us with all of that. And so in 2013, 2014, we started pushing a sanding block.
Love it.
We figured out kind of what we wanted, started a hull plug, and started building. There's some old video out there of us running some hull plugs. We're sitting on a bucket with a square wooden box with a steering wheel mounted to it. The only motor we had at time on the first hull we built was the 215, the original boat we built.
Mm-hmm.
We had an old 200 Evinrude that we had taken off a boat we had in Marine Pro, and it actually ran extremely well. And I was like, man, if this thing runs with this motor, imagine how it's going to do with a good motor.
Yeah.
Because this thing probably had 2,000 hours on it, I'm sure. And
oh man.
So that was kind of how it started. We got the first hull built. We built a boat, and we had a local dealer here. We had him meet us at the lake just to get an outside opinion, a bass boat guy. We said, hey, come run this boat. And he pulled it back on the trailer, and he said, it was funny. He says, boys, I'm going to give you all the big head. He said, that's one of the best running boats I've had on the water in a long time. So we're like, okay, we're heading in the right direction.
Wow.
So
what the feet? I mean,
we started ordering parts, ordering some motors, and actually the first 4 or 5 boats we built in a 2,800 square foot garage.
wow.
So
Talk about humble beginnings. That's awesome.
Yeah, so very, very, very humble beginnings. I think year one, I don't know, probably less than 15 boats maybe.
Wow.
And we spent a long time like, well, we can't if we're going to grow this thing, we're not going to do it in a 2,800 square foot garage. So we probably spent 9 months looking for a building, and was just extremely blessed with the current facility that we had became available. We moved in here November of 2015 with one model and a dream, and just kind of took off from there. So the 205 came next, then the 195, 185, and
here you are today.
Things were kind of starting to roll.
Yeah.
So
I think the biggest takeaway that I had from this, which I think is really cool, is So I grew up in Colorado, which doesn't have very many bass boats, but so you
Right.
really pay attention to every boat that you see. And so there was a bumblebee that a guy had in one of our old clubs that is still has it, and it is pristine. I mean, it is fantastic. This boat is in great shape, and I loved that boat. Number one, and
Right.
thought it was a fantastic riding boat and everything else. And then the Stratus, love Stratuses, and I love how they run, and I love all of those details. So that's all. These are all cool things that you guys have a lot of experience here. But I think the best part of this story to me is the fiberglass repair business that you both work for. I mean, you think about this, you're getting to take a look at every pro and con on every type of boat that's out there. And as we all know, I think it's fair to say that there's a lot of quality brands right now in the bass boat space, but they all have their differences
Absolutely.
and everything else. And you've got to dive into all those details and really say, okay, this is what we like, this is what we don't like, and let's start our own deal. Come on with it.
Yeah. A big part of that was, you bring a boat in the shop over in our Marine Pro shop, and I mean, even something as simple as a bilge pump or aerator pump change, in some situations, you're like, oh my God, this is,
Miserable.
you hate to say it, but in some brands, I mean, it ended up being a 3 or 4 hour job for a pump replacement. And so that was one of the things we kind of made notes of. And then, Steve was like, "Hey, we had this really cool thing at Bumblebee, the trifold rear lid." Said that we have across all of our models. That's an old Bumblebee
Mhm.
um, trick that they use there, and the finish liner in the back. So one of the things we said is like, one thing we're going to do is we're going to make this boat easy to access and easy to work on, because we've known how much of a pain in the butt it's been for all these years doing it.
And the
So
fact that
that's where,
stuff just breaks on bass boats. I don't care what
oh
year,
yeah,
what
oh
model, like,
absolutely,
it is everyone understands it, like, it is part of the game. You better have access to, work on a bilge pump or whatever it may be, because stuff just, eventually fails, unfortunately. It's just part of being a boat owner, right?
oh
And I
yeah,
can't stand the amount of times, especially on older boats that I've had through the years, of just fiberglass cuts and everything else, trying to dig in and grab something, some wire, run it. But all of that
right,
stuff makes a huge difference in my mind. And for the average person buying a boat, I think you end up working on your boat more than you anticipate. And it's great to have a good dealer and do things, but sometimes you can't go to that dealer because you're on the road at a tournament somewhere, and to be
sure.
able to have access to that stuff's important. So I like how that was top of mind.
Yeah. Well, it's been important to us. I mean, one of the things, and we stouted today. I mean, we use rocker switches. We don't use digital switching.
Mhm.
Uh, we have just, we found it's so simple. A guy's out there, in the field, whether, he's fishing professionally or he's fishing semi-professional or whatever, and he's out on the road, and if a pump quits working, with a rocker switch, it's either going to be the switch, the fuse, or the pump. So, and we just tried to make those three things easy to access. Um, Worst case scenario, if you didn't have one, you can almost run to any auto parts store and find a rocker switch that will.
Yeah,
Chris is
here we
showing
go.
there.
I'll pull this. I'll
Uh,
make Chris's screen bigger. Second here.
um, So you can just about go to any auto parts store and find maybe not the exact switch, but something that'll get you out of a jam with that system.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons. And we've looked at it in here. Um, we've worked on a lot of stuff with digital switching, and sometimes it can be very aggravating. So we choose to kind of the keep it simple, and I won't say the other
Yeah.
word, but to keep it simple solution.
Well,
The
Uh,
Kiss
and one of the
metaphor.
things you
That's
said, Tim, you
Go
being on
ahead,
the
Chris.
road and having a switch fail. AutoZone, Walmart, somewhere you can get something to get you through. Um, my travel partner lost a digital switch in a brand of boat. in a Toyota championship or a Toyota tournament on Lake of the Ozarks back 2017, I believe it was. We were there. He was sitting 42nd in the points. Top 40 went to the championship. He was on the fish. He went out there that morning. First fish was a 4-pounder. He goes to turn on his live well, and nothing in his boat works. Nothing at all. All it would do is start. So at that point, he has to throw the fish back in the water, go back to the ramp, go to the repair trailer module, the front switch panel had shorted out the module, killed everything in the boat except for the start switch. They got it finished at 1 o'clock. He had a 3 o'clock weigh in. He went and caught a couple little spotted bass off a seawall. Well, he ended up 48th in the points. So instead of making it to the championship, it cost him a championship. Well, the championship's $250,000.
Right.
So having that rocker switch, there's a couple accessory switches in here. So the worst case scenario, I always keep a screwdriver in my boat. I'm going to unscrew this thing, unplug whatever one's not working, and plug it into an accessory until I get off the water and finish my day. So I love the mechanical switches. It just makes life easier.
I'm in the same boat. The model of boat that I run right now is a Phoenix 721, and it's for that reason. I'm a simple boat guy, right? Like, I don't want to have a bunch of stuff because, in my opinion, the more technology, I'll have nice graphs, the technology there, but everything else, like, I want it to be easy. And I totally agree. I've seen too many of the electronic ignition switches, everything else. I've seen them fail on boats, right? And to me, I'm a keep it simple, stupid kind of guy. That's myself. KISS. There's the acronym.
Well,
KISS.
we've been doing this for a couple of years now, Adam, and I'm still waiting. You're supposed to be buying a new boat sometime, so I'm still waiting on you.
Hey, speaking of which, Tim, man, so I'm in Idaho.
Yes.
I'm out here in Idaho, and I know I can only imagine the factors across distribution, right? I mean, you see a lot of boat manufacturers middle of the country, right? That type of a deal. You guys are in South Carolina. Good news is a lot of bass boats in that world. But has there been any thoughts to push more west, marketing that way? I know it's a smaller market, but
Well, that's why we hired Chris.
there we go.
Well,
I mean, that's exactly, that was exactly our thoughts for bringing Chris on board. We knew he was on the other side of the Mississippi River. We don't get over that way very often. In our rep that handles this side of the country, it's almost too much to ask for a person to try to cover it. And Chris, amazingly, he does it. I mean, I think, Chris, you're getting ready to go on a 4,000-mile loop coming up here in a day or so.
I leave Friday, go up into the Northeast. Pretty much going to hit every state in the Northeast. I've got a relationship with a dealer up in Connecticut. It's probably the best dealer in the Northeast, and they're pretty excited to take a look at Falcon. So hopefully we'll get that market knocked out next week. And we've added a dealer in Utah. Talking to a few dealers out your way and just knocking on doors. Luckily, we have some connections with some people out that way that know people. So I did get a picture the other day of a white and red 215 at a tournament in North Cali. So we've got one out there, and people are starting to ask. So
there's
one thing I can say is when they get in it, it's going to surprise them. The boat has really surprised me. I was thinking, well, it's 99 inches wide. Is it going to turn? Is it going to come out of the hole? It turns. It turns as well as any high performance boat that I've ever been in. The whole shot is phenomenal. But what blew my mind, I knew it was going to have a good ride, but I didn't realize it was going to be as good as what it is. My wife, she has a fused neck from an auto accident, so in previous brands, if it was rough, a lot of traffic or windy, she just couldn't go with me. It was just too hard on her. And I kept talking about the boat, and finally one day she looked at me and she said, all right, kids are going to stay with Granny. We're going to the lake. I want to ride in this boat. And I said, okay. So we go to the lake, and I started easing up and finding, different wakes and things to cross for. And at the end of the day, she said, I thought you were really BSing me about how good this boat rides. She said, but I love it because she can actually ride over there and she doesn't feel any of the impact. I was on Lake Erie, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, and it was rolling 3 foot Eries, which for us in
Wow.
the South, we call that a 4 footer.
Add a
They're
foot,
15
baby.
and
Come
20
on.
foot apart, and that's right, just rolling. But I videoed running across Erie, running 33 miles an hour, holding my phone here, and my phone's barely moving in the video. And the
Wow.
boat's just, it falls literally like you're falling on a pillow. So it's the best riding boat I've ever been in my life.
Mm, wow. Wow. Well, Tim,
Appreciate that,
yeah, I was
Chris.
gonna
It's
say
awesome.
those are some kind words.
Appreciate that.
And you know, I was told that they rode great, but they weren't very fast. But I'm gonna have to argue that fact.
Mm.
So
You got the
I've,
guy
I've
himself
tested.
working on it. You're the prop guy, man.
Yeah,
Everywhere I
I
see things, it's you working on props or like figuring out the right prop for a setup.
we I've run 14 of them so far. The
Wow.
heat's holding me back a little bit, and she's not all the way broke in, but right now we're running with the best prop so far. We've run 76. Um, I really feel there's a couple more in it, and maybe a few other tricks. We may find a couple more. So
And that's not a
uh,
flash
Chris, you're in
motor.
a 20 Predator.
that is not a flash motor, no.
Wow. Wow. And you're in a
So
20
we get
Predator?
everything set up in 20 Predator. We get everything set up stock and get everything we can get out of it. I'll borrow a flashed ECU from a buddy, and then we'll make a run with that and show people the difference between flashed and not flashed. But no, I really feel I can get the boat around 78. I moved the engine up last night a little bit. Uh, just playing with it. I need just weather to cool down a little bit.
Yeah. You need some
So,
temps.
but the boats, the first one I ran had a Mercury on it, and it just shot out of the hole, and I was kind of surprised. It was like I said, 99 inches wide. You don't expect that big of a boat, and it runs 75 just right out of the gate. And I was
Mm.
okay. Well, we've got something we can really work with here, and it's been fun. I'm having fun for the first time in several years of just the boat is itself is easy to drive, it's fun to drive, it's agile. You don't have to worry about there's water's getting big, or you just do whatever you want to do in it, and it'll float really shallow because it is wide. Um, and the turning on it, the first guy I put in it, I jumped in his boat, and he jumped in that one and took off and run it. And I looked down the lake, and I see he's down there turning figure eights everywhere. And he comes back, and he goes, "Man, this thing will turn." And so it's really a responsive boat. It's a lot of fun.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, Tim, I know you've got to close things down. If you need to go, man, you just let us know. There's next.
We're good. Actually, I'm pleasantly surprised that the door hasn't peeked open and somebody's yelled in at me. So if you've got anything else, I've got a few more minutes.
Certainly so. Yeah, and just let me know. Like I said, no big deal. But yeah, something that I did see come out recently. We've seen in the industry in general. I'd love to get your take. I've had a lot of brands on here recently with shows coming up, but what's your take right now on the bass boat industry? We are, getting into July, beginning of Q3 of 2024. What's your take on the industry as a whole?
You know, I've I've been doing this or been involved in this since the 80s. I've been through the Gulf Wars in the bass boat industry. I've been through 9/11 in the industry. I've been to 2008 in the industry, 2008, 2009. Um, this one's just a little different. Um, Me personally, I think a lot of it's interest rate related. Um, um, you know, not not to categorize anybody, but to me, a lot of bass boat guys to me are man, they are a lot of them are blue collar guys. Hey, they're linemen, they're welders, they're auto mechanics, they're diesel mechanics. I mean, for me, this is the guys that I see on local tournaments that I fish here and stuff as a majority. And uh, they love bass fishing. They love their boats. They love their trucks.
Mhm.
And and a lot of them are younger than me. My first house I bought, and I'm going to tell my age here a little bit. My first house I bought in the early '90s, and my interest rate was almost 9%.
Jeez. Yeah.
But my first house was $68,000.
My
You know,
first one was 67. And it was
yeah. So
9.49.
68. So 9% on 68,000. It's not that bad,
Right.
you know. But now the average cost of a house $250,000-$300,000 at 8 or 9%, and a guy's going to have probably a truck payment. Man, it's hard to start squeezing a boat payment in on that too. So, I think that's a little bit to do with it too. I keep hearing Phil, well, interest rates used to be a lot higher than this. Yes, I agree, they did, but bass boats weren't 60, 70, and $80,000. Some 100. Um, I think So I think that's a little bit of what's driving what's going on. It's an election year. You know, I I hear it all the time. I'm no economist. I'm a boat builder.
Yeah.
Um, but it does seem to cause people to pull back a little bit. You'll hear, hey, it's an election year. I've heard from some people, hey, I'm just going to kind of wait and see what happens in November. Um, to me, I don't know what that means. I know this. Um, I love this industry. I love Falcon Boats. I love what I do. I don't try to let anything that goes on in that world out there stop our progression in this world here. So we've rolled out some. I called Chris this morning. We've rolled out a little program this morning that they're calling and talking to some dealers about, and um, we'll just we'll see what happens. We are absolutely. I'm going to say this. When we first started this thing, I had some people, man, Tim, just, man, I love the boat and I think it's great. I love how it rides. I love how it fishes, but man, I just don't know how long you guys are going to be around.
Mm.
So I heard that for 2 or 3 years. Well, we've been around for almost 10 now. So I think we've passed the longevity test. Um, so we're here and we're here to stay. Steve and I have had conversations the last week or so of what's next. So that's getting ready to get started. We like to say, hey, we're going to go grab some cold beers and get some napkins and a Sharpie and sit at the bar and start scratching out what's coming next.
Love it.
That's kind of how the first one came about. And so we're definitely we're in this thing for the long haul, and we're going to do what we need to do and what it takes to keep our company strong, try to keep our dealers profitable, keep delivering good product to our dealers so they can deliver them to their customers, and we'll see how this thing shakes out.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, and I totally agree with the sentiment of folks being worried about a brand being around. Um,
Right.
my first bass boat was a early 2000s Legend, 18 foot,
Wow.
18 and a half foot Legend, and love that boat. I love a little small boat like that. So I can't wait to talk about the 18 Freedom. But the it annoyed me when that they obviously got bought out and production stopped on those boats. It's hard to get parts and hard to get things figured out if a brand goes down, and not to mention your
Sure.
resale value at times, right, disappears because of that mindset of like, well, how can I call the plant and ask about details and the brand recognition? And so that's a good sentiment to have, because I totally agree with those concerns because I felt it firsthand.
And
Yeah, and I mean it's important to us. This is probably one of the um, few bass boat companies you can call into, and if you call in here and you have a question, there's a pretty high percentage of a chance you're going to get Steve and I on the phone to answer that question. Um, we have a couple other guys here that are more than capable, but their job is to keep the production line rolling, so we try to keep them as freed up as we can. But I mean, Steve and I, we answer dozens and dozens of questions a week over the phone, over email. Uh, So, and that's just part of what we enjoy doing. So,
Adam, if you
That's
need to see a
fantastic.
video of your old legend, I think I've got a video somewhere of me passing it on Grand Lake in like 25-mile-an-hour winds. If you need to see that.
Pro- Probably so. Probably so. Those, yeah, yeah. You're not wrong. That's hilarious. That sounds like you, Chris. You go fast enough.
So,
Man, yeah, we've had some good times running stuff in the Midwest, and now I'm fishing a lot of the Western stuff, and it's been fun to check out these different places and bodies of water, and yeah, I do miss some of those days, and I still get back there a decent amount. Fished the Toyota Series Championship last year on Table Rock, right? So, but man, we'll need to fish again here soon.
LOZ's coming up in September, man.
There we go.
I know you like the place.
Cool place, fun place, no doubt. Well, awesome. Well, so we're 2025 production. As far as models go, I've always Falcon to me what I've really liked seeing the price point right now in the industry. You're starting to see a lot of dealer incentives rolling out. Right, the $5,000 off national advertised price, 9,000, whatever it may be, and then you're seeing nationally advertised prices. I think we've seen it with Bass Cat, with Phoenix, for certain models, and you're starting to see lower numbers, or at least advertised lower numbers than what I remember seeing in the last couple of years with COVID and everything else. You're seeing boats in the 70s. Um, what I've always liked about Falcon is you guys make there's a price conscious model of things that you can still compete out of, right? And myself and a lot of other folks in their 20s or wherever else it may be, like that's me. I'm looking for something I can compete out of, that isn't gonna that I don't need all these extra details. I want to be able to fish out of it, and compete at the level that I'd like to compete at. But I guess talk a little bit about some of these different models, what you're kind of seeing on your end, and then any changes to anything in 2025.
Chris, you want to take this one, or you want me to take it?
No, I can take it. I'm seeing a lot more interest in that 205, 215. Like you said, it's our more base model boat. It's the same hull. So you're going to get the same performance and ride out of it. It's
Okay.
just a little bit different layout, a little bit different bells and whistles. The 205 and 215, it's standard with carpeted rod lockers instead of the fiberglass rod lockers. It doesn't have the LED lighting. It's got a different seat, different jack plate, things of that nature that make it to where we can put it in that more affordable price range than, say, the Predator I'm in is still more affordable than what a lot of the boats I'm used to in this category, and have a lot more things on it. But the 205 and a 215 just take it to another level. If you took a 205 and just left it stock, which is two 9-inch helixes, a 4-trex, a manual jack plate, a 250 horsepower motor on it, I mean, a dealer can sell that boat in the low 70s, 71, 72 range generally. And the dealers can still make a profit, which we all have to do to stay in business. But the customer can better afford that with the higher interest rates. So I'm seeing a lot of interest there. Now, there's guys like me that I'm going to have the Predator, and we still see those Predators moving, and the TEs, but I'm seeing a lot more interest in that 205 and 215 right now. And like Tim was saying earlier, I believe it's all due to the interest rate. If the interest rate goes up here and the boat prices are up here, well, now that payment's a whole different game. But if you can bring that boat price back down here, even with the higher interest rates, a guy can afford it. As a bass fisherman, we're going to have a bass boat for the rest of our lives. We know we're going to have a boat payment for the rest of our lives. And generally, the way we look at it is, if I'm paying a payment, I'm going to have the newest one I can afford. So most of your bass fishing guys, every 2, 3, sometimes 4 years, most of those guys are trading out.
Mhm.
Some guys are lucky enough to do it every year. But the reason they do that is, one, warranties. Two, they want the latest and greatest technology if they're making that payment. And what we've seen happen when the interest rates went up, we've seen the sales really slow down because the payments were outside of their reach. I mean,
Right.
most bass fishermen, we're working class. So we have a payment to be concerned with. And when that got out of the reach, you really seen things slow down. But what people have discovered, do I really need $35,000 worth of electronics on a boat to go bass fishing? You know, we don't. I've got less electronics on my boat this year. I'm gonna add one more graph to it, but I've realized a lot of that stuff I wasn't using, so why spend the money on it? So you can take that basic standard boat and at $72,000, you know, you can afford that payment even with the interest rate. And here's the great thing is hopefully as we get through the election year and everything, hopefully next spring we can start getting some better interest rates. Well, when that happens, you can go refinance your boat. You bought it, a base model boat at a base model price. Your interest rate's high. You can go refinance that thing when the interest rates come down and knock a couple $100 off your payment, and you're still sitting in your boat good, and you got lesser payment. So those are the things that I'm seeing. The 18 Freedom, it looks like it's going to be a big splash for us. High school fishing's big all across the country, and it's getting to where more and more children are getting into that. And a lot of them, from what I've seen, a lot of them parents don't even fish, don't own a boat. So when they go to buy a boat for their son to fish or their daughter to fish in high school, when you go show them, hey, you're going to do this extracurricular sport here for school, and it's going to cost you $100,000 for a boat to do it in. Most parents, they're not going to do that. But when you can go get one for under $45,000, and for an 18-foot boat, that thing's got a ton of space in it. It rides great. It performs great. With a 150 on it, it's a 60-mile-an-hour boat, so it's not too crazy and overpowered for a young person, but it's got everything that they need to be able to go fish their tournaments. So I see a big hit there. Texas, is real big in high school fishing.
Huge.
Louisiana and Arkansas, I've seen. Um, so that's going to be a big hit. And then you have a lot of people, like my dad. My dad's retired. He can't afford to go pay $100,000 for a boat, and really, he doesn't need $100,000 boat. He just wants to go fishing. So, an 18 Freedom falls in that price point to where it would be affordable for him, and it's not too much boat for him to handle as he gets older. So there's a lot of things that you look at there in that market, and then you look at the fact that there's first time boat owners out there that have never owned a boat. They don't want to jump off in something too big that they're not comfortable with.
Dude,
So
that is a great point, Chris. I think it was such a powerful thing for my first boat to be an 18-foot boat because it taught me how
mhm,
to run a boat, easy to maneuver around docks, everything else like that. Got pretty good at running that boat in rough water for being its size. So by the time I got into a
yeah,
21-foot boat, it was like, man, this is great. Um,
that was
so
me. I started off in like a '93 model 274 Stratus.
yeah,
You know,
Right.
you learn a lot.
Great boat.
yeah, great boat. So,
That's
but
awesome.
don't a first time boat owner. I've seen at boat shows, even on the Bay Boat Center console side. Guy walks up and he's looking at a 29-footer, twin engines, joystick controls. $350,000, and he doesn't even know how to drive a boat.
Hmm.
You're
Hmm.
like, man, you probably should start over here. You know,
Right.
let's get you something to where you can learn. Um, I sold a boat one time to a guy. It was an old Procraft, and um, I took him for a ride and showed him how it run and everything. And I'm sitting there getting ready to load the boat up, and he looks at me and says, "Chris, what's the red button for?" And I was like, "Red button, red button." And I looked, and he's pointing at the trim button. I said, "Oh, that's the trim button." I said, you trim it all the way down, come out of the hole, and you trim it up, and it lifts the boat up out of the water, makes it ride better, makes it perform better, goes faster." He goes, "Oh, it goes faster." And I was like, "Oh Lord!" And I asked the guy, I said, "I thought you'd owned the boat." He said, "Oh, I've got a John boat with a 9.9 on it." I was like, "Oh boy!" And you're buying a 73-mile-an-hour bass boat. Your next step. So it just that 18 Freedom opens up so many markets that I think the bass industry's kind of turned a blind eye to the last 5 or 10 years. Everything's been bigger, faster, wider, more graphs, bigger motors, and we got these things to where there's a crowd of people over here that just can't do it.
And,
Yeah,
and
I really think they got left
and I
behind.
think
Mm-hmm.
too,
Yeah.
it's not even right. I mean, I think of, like you said, the retirees, the folks who maybe don't have any um thoughts on fishing a tournament, or maybe they're just fishing very localized stuff. It's like there's a huge market there, and I think when you get down to that price point, like you're talking in the 40s, you start to compete with the aluminum market, right? I mean, I think that's where we've seen some folks
Well,
kind
and
of go to.
that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what I'm hearing with this freedom. Dealers are already saying, "Wow, now you're getting down into the price of my aluminum boats, but they can have a fiberglass boat." Talking about retirees here in Arkansas, we have the largest, retirement community, basically private gated community. Hot Springs Village, like 25,000 acres, has like 11 golf courses and 9 lakes. Well, let me tell you, these are some of the best lakes in the state of Arkansas. You just have to know someone to get in them. Well, it's a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit because they're small lakes. You know, Perfect place for freedom. Retired guy has a dock on the water. He doesn't need a big boat because he's on a small body of water. Why should he go spend his retirement dollars on a $90,000-$100,000 boat that, back in the two-stroke days, I had more come into to the service shop on the two strokes having engine troubles because they never could open them up. The carbon buildup in them was so bad. Um, so this guy doesn't need $100,000 boat. You know,
Right.
he can buy this $42,000 boat, throw him a couple of graphs up front with a live scope, and he can catch all the crappie and bass he wants to on that lake and never has to worry about anything. So it's a market that, like Tim said, it's gotten left behind
Well,
because
let's talk
so
about
many boat builders.
garages too, man. I think like so
Oh, yeah, they've gotten smaller.
my like so
Wouldn't believe how many of those we get a lot of those phone calls here.
I mean,
You know, guys will call in, hey, here's how much room I got. And we're very careful about, hey, here's what are you looking at? Here's exactly what you have to work with. So we actually get a lot of those calls that a guy's garage is the
Yep.
determining factor of what boat he buys.
yeah, and
Yep.
I think
And
that is a total point, Tim. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have a house in Colorado that, same, we talk about interest rates. My rate was so good on that house that I've kept it as a rental. But I bought that house because it had a 25-foot bay. The only reason I bought that house was because it had a 25-foot
yeah,
bay. And I can tell
yeah,
you,
and everything else is 22.
right. I'm renting a house in Idaho. And it's very hard to find a place where I can keep a boat. You know what I mean? It is so difficult to find because everything in all the new builds, and I'm in the real estate world, showed a guy a place the other day. All these new builds are, 20 to 22 foot garages, and it's a pain to find a place that could fit a 21 foot bass boat.
Yeah, my wife couldn't believe that I gave her the front garage. That's the easiest one to access. She couldn't understand it at first, but it was 22 foot with a 3 foot closet. So if I put the boat on this side and open the door, I could squeeze it in there. So I just built a little 14 by 30 lean-to shop on the back of the house, and I gave her the front one. Yeah, I have to open the back gate and stuff like that to get in, but it's worked out a lot easier for me because I actually have room now to put my boat. Where before, I don't know how many times I, bent a trailer fender or you know on the edge of the garage door because I had to have it in a certain place to get the motor through the door of the closet. So yeah, that's a big deal moving forward with boats is garage space. Um,
Totally.
Absolutely. But I think the reason they got left behind is the 20 and 21 foot market. It's a bigger market, and
Oh, yeah.
so many builders just concentrated on the masses because they felt like, well, the time I spend to build an 18 footer, I could build another 20. And so they just kind of, I know manufacturers that quit building anything less than 20. And now I think you're going to see that change some.
Mhm. No.
Well, I finally got the signal from the door over there.
Okay. All right, Tim. Well, man,
Hey guys, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on. Chris, continue on.
Yep.
yeah.
Uh, Chris probably had the biggest crash course and learned about Falcon faster than anybody. So, um, So he should be able to answer anything for you, but appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you and seeing you
No
again.
doubt. Thanks so much, Tim, for taking the time out. We'll see you later.
All right, talk
All
to you
right.
later,
Thank
Ken.
you.
Oh
All
man,
righty, sir.
well, it was awesome that he was able to do that. Thanks to him and
Man,
yourself for
it's
organizing things.
it's been an absolute blast. Been friends with those guys, for a long time, and always kind of felt like I may end up over here if I ever left. I never planned on leaving. When I did, it was pretty cool that the first call there was with Tim, and he's like, "Hey, we're going to call you tomorrow." So, you know, they're great people. I mean, that's the thing that makes it so fun is they've got a great product, the things they do to build a better quality boat, and they're just great people. They take care of people. So I'm having fun because of those folks.
That's awesome, man. No, you and I talked a lot off air as you were kind of transitioning in your career, and
Mm-hmm.
you're a guy. Let's be honest, man. You've developed a ton of relationships with dealers across the country, and you have options when it comes to who you are going to potentially work for as a rep. And the feeling and the conversations that you've had around Falcon have all been super positive, just a family oriented business with guys doing the right thing. Um, was the takeaway over our conversations. And so I'm glad to see you have landed there and have an immediate success and everything else because it seems
It,
like a great fit.
it is, and look, it's pretty simple. If you allow God to put you in the right place, He'll put you in the right place, and He's absolutely put me in the right place. And those relationships, a lot of those people are coming along for the ride. It's not public on all of them yet, but we've got some dealers that I've had some relationships with that are on board and more coming, and man, we're growing. The deals I've got working right now, I think 14, 15 new dealers that have come on board with me so far this year. Um, as I've taken over west of the Mississippi River, I picked up 8 house accounts that they already had, and I'm working to help grow those dealers and take them to the next level. And some guys just no one ever sat down and tried to help them with marketing or sales or strategies. And as a rep, I feel that it's my job to, you know. I'm
Mhm.
an outsider looking in. I've seen things work in other places. It may work here. It's my job to try to help these dealers get to their next level. And at the same time, it's my job to work with the retail customer one on one and help bring them together with the dealers and make sure that everybody has the best ownership experience that they have with their boat. Um, so, it's like a kid getting to go to a new playground. I'm all excited about it, and I'm having so much fun. I'm leaving out Friday, making a big loop up through Ohio. I was up there about 3 weeks ago, setting up a dealer, and we're going to stop in there and see those guys again and spend the weekend there with some friends, some old friends. And then when I leave there, I'm going across New York State to Connecticut, and then we're going to circle around up there and enjoy a little bit of the Northeast weather before we head back down. But ultimately, that's a really really strong market up there in that part of the
Mhm.
country. Up north is really strong. It's actually right now probably stronger than say Texas is. The Texas market
Really?
seems to be struggling with all the weather that they've had. Southeast Texas was already flooded. They were like 19 inches above on rainfall, and then you get a freaking hurricane comes right through it last week. South Central Texas is in a drought. Lake Travis, I think it's came up some. It was like 63-foot low, and now it's 45-foot low. You can't even get a boat in the boat. The boat ramps are closed. There's 2 miles of water. So Texas has went through those struggles. Then you throw the economy and the interest rates and things like that on top of it, and Texas has struggled. Hopefully, those people can get a break out there because it's a great market, great people. Um, but right now, I'm looking at the Northeast and the mid and the West. Those are two untapped markets for us that seem to be doing well. Like I said, I'm knocking on doors out west. I've got a new dealer in Utah that's hopefully going to get their boats ordered up here in the next few weeks. So
Yeah.
we'll start inching that way. Um, I think once the West Coast guys get in one of these boats, they're going to be hooked. Um,
Awesome.
just the way it rides and fishes and performs, that they're going to be hooked on them. So I really think that the West Coast market would be great for Falcon. Um, so we're just keep trying to fill in those holes with relationships.
Awesome. Awesome. And your dealer out of Utah, are they out of Salt Lake City or around that area?
They're down by what is it, St. George area down
Oh
by
yeah.
Lake Powell.
Big time
Yes, Marine Works.
population movement. A lot of stuff going on down in St. George. So that's cool. They're down there
Yeah,
close to Powell.
yeah. And that allows them not only to service the people there, but across the Nevada line there, they can service a lot of that territory for now as well. So um,
No
it's going to be
doubt.
great. So when you get your new boat, we'll have another one out there.
I love it.
So
I love it. Man.
I'm gonna
Well,
have to
there's
fly out there and go
yeah, you're
bring
gonna
on some of the smallmouth with you.
I was gonna say what we need to do is you need to come up in fall and winter time when it's honestly can be nasty, but that's when those some of those big ones start biting as we get into
Yeah,
the fall time
That's
frame.
what Cody always said. When it was nasty, you got to go. He said, "We're gonna catch the big ones." So,
No
I was
doubt.
at Lake Erie a few weeks ago, and Erie seems to be struggling on their smallmouth population,
Really?
from what I'm hearing and seeing up there. Yeah, they're mainly fishing. A lot of the guys are mainly fishing largemouth only tournaments now because the smallmouth stuff's gotten the population that around Cleveland area is still good, but you get back around Sandusky, that part of the lake is really struggling with smallmouth. I
Hmm.
caught one 4.5 pounder, and it was only smallmouth to see in 2 days of fishing.
Jeez. Jeez. Oof. That's not good. That part of the world,
No,
like you
no,
said, is
I don't.
special.
Yeah, yeah. Now St. Clair's on fire, obviously. So,
Holy cow,
but
that was cool to see.
yeah.
Well, awesome,
So
man. Go ahead.
on the Falcon models, there's a few things that people just don't realize about the way these boats are built.
Yeah.
There's some special things that Tim and Steven have designed into them. One thing that the boats are super solid when you're running. You don't have rattles and creaks and pops, and I think a lot of that goes to it starts with a special stringer system. You know, bass boats has always had two stringers. Running just off center on each side. What they've done in this boat in the 20 and 21 footers is they're running a triple stringer system. So you have one that goes down the middle, and then your other ones that go down off center in a grid system. And it's the traditional. It's not the foam injected mold, compressed foam molded stringer that you set in there and you trim and you glass over. It's actually a fiberglass stringer system that is built and set in the boat and glassed in, and then they actually drill and foam that stringer system.
Hmm.
Then once that's done, they glass back over where they foam so no water can get down in there and penetrate. They say closed cell foam, but once you cut it, it's no longer closed cell. So they glass that back over, and they have a fiberglass false floor system that goes on top of that, and they glass it in, and they hole saw between the stringers and inject all that full of foam, and then glass back over again. There's no drain pipes running through the stringer system of a Falcon boat like it is on most boats. If you were on Lake Erie and you took one over the bow, it hits that false floor and goes straight back to the bilge because the stringer system is completely encapsulated.
Wow.
So those are, that's one of the special things that is done in building a Falcon boat is it's got a beefy triple stringer system full of foam down low, and everything's completely sealed underneath. Um, the boxes all have 1.5 inch drains in them. In between the front boxes has 1/2 inch drains that are piped down to the false floor. So if water was to get trapped between the carpet of your lids, instead of it going over your lid into your rod locker, it actually goes down a drain and into the bilge of the boat. But if something was to happen and you did get water in the boat, you've got an inch and a half drain to actually be able to get that water out of there quickly and not sit and mold and everything else.
Yeah.
So the things that they've done, I actually stopped by one of my old customers' houses yesterday and was doing some stuff, and he climbed all over the boat, and he goes, I think this is the most well thought out boat I've ever seen in my life. And so, well, it's made by fishermen who have worked on boats all their life, and there's just little things, the rod lockers. I had a guy say, "Oh, those rod lockers are goofy." I said, "Why are they goofy? Because they're different." Well, yeah, but the way my garage is, I'm going to show you here. My rods go on that wall, and then my tackle, my 3700s go up here above.
Yeah.
And what that does is demoing dealers and customers. I don't haul a bunch of junk around. Look, if I go demo a customer, I'm going to demo him the way he's going to pick the boat up from the dealer. Because I've learned in my years, you can go run a guy. There was a certain pro I'm not going to name. His boat run 81 miles an hour. Then he put his stuff in it and it run like 72.
Right.
Well, when you open up his front boxes, there's so much junk in it. So I don't know how a customer's going to load their boat. I don't load mine heavy. They may or may not. So the best way for me to demo someone or a dealer is I'm going to give it to you the way it comes. What you do with it after that is on you.
Sure.
So before, I would have to stack all my rods up here on the back deck, climb over in the boat, open the rod locker, put those rods up, climb back out, put more rods up here, climb back over. Now I can just walk up and be able to open the rod locker and stand there and put my rods in the boat, or when I'm unloading, getting them out. Few things, key things I've seen on the water about it is when you raise it, they just ride up. But everybody's had that day and you're out there fishing on the water and all of a sudden they start blowing up schooling and your top water rod's in the box. And you've got all these rods laying on your lid and you're trying not to knock them off and you're feeding that rod out and then your hand slips and the lid falls, snap, there goes your top water rod. Well, with these, let me move some stuff off of it, but with these, you can actually just walk over here. You can walk right to the end of them. You open it up. Your rod's just right up. You can open up, grab the rod, pull it straight out, close it back down, and be fishing in just a matter of a couple minutes. And you don't have to worry about breaking a rod. So that's a few things on the Falcon that's just so well thought of. It makes everything. Makes today enjoyable. Especially me trying to learn the boats. They're new to me, and you're out there fishing. Wow, that's a pretty cool idea. So what I'll tell people is the rod locker, don't call it goofy. Try it out, and you're gonna love it because it's the greatest invention I think we've ever had. And then the trifold lid on the back that Tim was talking about that they had at Bumblebee. Man, before I'd have to grab that center box, try to pull and get that big box open just to turn off my battery switch. Now I walk up to the side of the boat and I just reach in there and turn it off. It's easy. Does make a cool thing though for culling your fish. I had a friend one night, we were at a tournament. He pulled up beside me. He's got them. He's got a 6.5 pounder in this box, and he opens his live wells up and he's getting this smaller fish out, and that 6.5 pounder jumps and goes right back in the water. We've all heard about it or seen it happen, but I seen it happen right there, and he had the tournament won hands down. And ever since then, I always try to protect my live wells when I'm checking fish. But the cull, you can actually this cool little feature here. So when you open that trifold lid up, no fish can get out. So Well, and the smallmouth, as we all know, love to jump.
Pulling those fish out. That's awesome.
So, but it just makes for easy access to your bilge area. Mine's a little bit dirty right now. Spilled some fluid in it, but I've got to clean up. But the other great thing is the bilge area is uh, black gel coat. I mean, it's not black paint over chopper gun, so it's actually slick and smooth finish, just like.
Oh no, we may have lost him. So anyway, folks, Falcon Boats been chasing that interview for quite some time, so I appreciate those guys taking time out to talk about the brand in itself. I think it is a unique one. Every time I see a Falcon boat, I want to go look at it, check it out. There's very few of them. There's one that I know of in Idaho, I believe. It's either Oregon or Idaho, or I've seen a guy running around in one. Chatted with him about it. As far as the East goes, especially the Southeast, seems to be a bunch more. Again, they are out of South Carolina, and cool to see that they are kind of targeting some of these markets that are not necessarily as big of a market, right? The smaller boats, the smaller fiberglass market, and also just a price point boat. So I think that's important. All right, you there, Chris?
Yep, I had to switch cameras. The other one just crashed out on me.
Man, you're quick at that stuff. That was impressive. I didn't even have to BS alone all that long.
Good. I hate for you to get bored.
No doubt. Well, man, I think these boats have so many features that are unique. I'm glad to hear you are chasing the miles per hour. I knew at some point, your background,
Yeah,
race car stuff, everything else. You're a speed guy, and a 99-inch beam, like you said, is a wide boat. So I'm glad to see you're making
it's big.
strides.
Yeah, it's big. I never expected. I was like, okay, I'm gonna settle for a slower boat, more deck space, better ride. It'd be good. And then after I got in one, I went, wait a minute, I don't have to settle for anything. So we've been working on it, and I know that it's not the right weather yet. I don't know it's the right. The engine's not even there yet. I mean, not most motors don't break in and actually open up. And the first time a guy told me this, I thought he was crazy, but he said that Yamaha's not going to open up until 15 to 20 hours. And my
Hmm.
2021 model boat, I was like, man, I can't get this thing to run. And then all of a sudden one day I fired it up and took off. I was running down the lake running 80, and I was like, where did this come from? And I looked down and it had 16.2 hours on it. So um, this boat here, hopefully she'll open up here in about 6, 7 more hours, and we'll see what we really have. And I pretty much think I found the prop for that,
Okay.
and the boat's going to run. I think I can. Honestly, I think I can easily. I can run upper 70s. I've already run 76 in the heat without the motor being opened up yet. So 77, 78 mile an hour is very realistic, but I have a goal, and man, I'm probably going to throw a lot of props at it and a lot of little tricks at it, see if we can get it there. But I think we can get it to where I want to get it to. But if not, 78 is very respectable, especially a boat of this size. Um,
Sure. Dude, super
and
fast.
well, you know me, it's,
I
I
do
don't
know
think
you.
anything's actually ever fast enough. But I, I'm having fun just chasing that number because I want to get it there, and I want to say, hey, I've got the fastest stock Falcon ever,
I
and
love it.
then I want to help people get theirs to those speeds. So
No doubt about
that
it.
way we can chase you 721 guys down out there.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's the only thing we got. But
So,
no. Well, awesome, man. Well, Chris, I really appreciate you taking the time out. Glad to hear everything is going so well for you, and that you're about to be on you spent a lot of time behind the wheel. And I'm glad you're gonna escape the heat a little bit, go on your northern journey. But man,
yes,
if folks are interested in a Falcon boat, obviously there's plenty of dealers and everything else, but Any recommendations on how they can get some more information on Falcon Boats?
Man, we got the Falcon Boat Owners page. There's a Falcon Bass Boat Owners page. I run the Boat Owners page. It's a new page that I started when I went to work for Falcon. I think we're getting close to 500 people right now. Love to have more people to come in and just learn. Even if you're not ready for a boat, come in there. You want to learn more about Falcon boats? Man, it's easy. My phone number is 501-655-6197. I put it out there for everybody because I'm here to help everybody that I can. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. Look me up on Facebook. Send me a message. I'm going to be traveling, like I said, leaving out Friday this week, which I don't know if this will air before then, but on the 19th and heading up to Sandusky, Ohio area, around the Niagara Falls, over to Norwich, Connecticut, all the way up to Bar Harbor, Maine, and back down. So if this does go out before that, man, give me a call if you want to see a Falcon boat in person and you're up that direction. I'll be glad to stop by and let you check one out. And if you have any questions,
Awesome.
don't hesitate to give me a call. Hit me up on social media. Um, I've yet to put anybody in one yet that didn't love the boat. So
That's awesome, man.
no,
Cool.
yeah.
Well, very good. Well, Chris, man, enjoy the northern weather. Safe travels that direction. We'll connect down the road here, and yeah, man, can't wait to. I need to take a look
Well,
around one of these boats a little bit closer than I have. I've just been able to walk around them, but I haven't driven one. So, yeah,
I'm
man,
really contemplating LOZ in September. You come on
come
out,
on
hang
down.
out. We'll have a good time. Go catch some fish and see if we can get a Toyota check. And,
I like it. I like the sound of that. Well, man, I'll check some
yeah,
calendars, get everything squared away. But I appreciate you, Chris. Man, thanks for coming on,
you
taking the
too,
time out.
man. Thanks for the time. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.